Hello and welcome to Take a Beat. My name is Tirza and I'm the digital pastor here at IES. And I am here with two very lovely ladies that I actually get to see all the time. Sophie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Tanta Marianne.
I'm not sure about the thank you for having me, but yes, sure. I'm glad to be here.
My tip is you don't have to watch yourself again because she's always talking about, I don't like seeing myself on video.
No.
I don't either. I run out of the room whenever my face comes up on video. So today we kind of started this conversation last week or last episode with Pastor Mike and Katie, and we kind of wanted to continue maybe a different angle, but we are talking about death, dying, and dealing with it. Like I was talking to them last episode. Wow, we went from anniversary to this. It was suddenly very serious. But I have wanted to talk about this for a while, mostly because I think you two have shared experiences of losing a loved one, your spouse. I don't have a spouse, but I've gone through losing parents, and so I just kind of wanted to talk about just the reality of loss and all of that. But maybe Sophie, if you can start with your story and of your spouse and when he passed away and things like that.
Well, actually, I'm dealing with a lot of losses since I was a kid. Starting with my grandfather, and then my uncle after that. I'm very close to both of them. Mm-hmm. And then I lost my mother when I was 23, and then I lost my dad 2012.
Okay.
And a year after that is my spouse, my husband. Yeah. So.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. So I'm an orphanage and I'm also a widow.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I think between all of them, for me, the hardest, it's my parents, especially my dad. For my husband, it's hard when I think about my kids, but other than that, I'm still kind of can accept. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
But then when you lose a parent, that's different kind of story.
Which, in the case of your spouse, you're thinking about your kids losing one of their parents.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think losing parents is the most hardest, I think, to me. Because spouse, unless you've already been living together for more than 10, 20 years, like Marianne, I think it's quite different. Because for me, 10 years, almost 11, when I lost my spouse. Yeah.
And before that, how long were you guys together before you lost him? Before he passed? Sorry.
A year. What? Sorry.
So, you were married for how long?
10 years.
Okay.
10 years, yeah. But I've known him for 11.
I see. How about you?
Death, loss. I think growing up or looking back, I just death was not really a reality for me, kind of. And I think also my upbringing, both of my parents, kind of like, I always heard, I remember when someone was not amongst us anymore, they would say, "We will be next." so kind of like, so yeah, I was just like, oh, this is how it. And actually, I think the first deep felt was when actually my dad, and I still remember actually his smiling face bringing me to the airport. I lived already in Indonesia, and he said goodbye, and he said, we won't meet in this dimension again. But I was completely like, sure, Dad, see you next year. Like so when he passed, it was really I think it took me a very long time. I kind of I couldn't find reality. It was just like it's impossible that he's not here anymore, because he's just like, he has so much to give, and just like the humanity needs more of these kind of people, because like my father was just embodiment of kindness and support and all this. So that was my first, and then I think then more people kind of, but then of course like my husband, when my husband went home, I think it was also because we talked about death. I think it's like as believers, just like we are going to home. We're going home. It's just because we're temporary here. So we had this talk often, and then of course also this like, I will die first. No, you will die first, and even those kind of things in between. And just like, and my husband was like, I just asked you one thing: if my day comes and I will see my king, I don't want you to be sad. I want you to rejoice for me and with me. So when the day came, it was actually, I think, God has been very gracious to us as family, in the sense of it was so unexpected, and we were all at home, and we were in his favorite place, the kitchen, drinking coffee, and then he just literally said, just give me a moment, and he took one breath, and then he was not there anymore. So at that moment, none of the kids, we were aware of the situation. So I think it was like only later we brought him to the hospital, and then
Josh was there.
Josh was with him there. So that's where kind of like, then it becomes like when you humanly, just when all your head knowledge starts crumbling, and then just I tried to resuscitate my husband, and my Caleb was there too, and he was just like, what are they doing with that? So it's just like, so those moments were very, very challenging, and at this time also, and then I said nothing what we can do, and had to go and base. Was like, no, my husband is not going to the base. So it's just like the story, the first hours around it, I think was the very hard ones. And both of my youngest girl were for the first time at the field trip, so they was not there. So
I remember.
That took also another, I kind of like, I almost want to say, telling them Dad went home. What do you mean home? So, kind of so, but,
On that note.
Like,
how did you communicate to your kids about, or talk to your kids around the fact that they lost their dad? Do you talk about it? Do you how?
For me, I talk about it after. Like, I kind of ask them like how they feel, especially with Ian, because at that time, Illy is in Batam. So
really?
yeah, she's very close.
Her dad.
So she kind of ran away, actually. So I don't have that opportunity yet at that time to talk to her. But I talked to Ian, and he kind of understand what's going on. And actually, I still remember he's the one that told me that, mommy, daddy is already, it's with Jesus. And I was surprised that he told me that.
Yeah.
And I took him to the psychologist, actually, because he saw what happened to my spouse when he passed away. So I took him to the psychologist. I'm scared that it kind of,
It could be
effect,
a traumatic.
Yeah. So, but then the psychologist told me also that, Ibu, he understand. I'm just glad. But for Illy, it's a different kind of story. So when she came back, I took her also to the same psychologist, and she told me that we need to do hypnosis for her, so she won't have that memory, or like a strong memory, that because she feel that her dad is still here. So, but it's not with us, but it's still alive. So the psychologist told me that we need to do a hypnosis so that she don't have that kind of strong bond anymore. I mean, still have a memory, but the feeling of losing is not in her mind. So the psychologist need to hypnosis her for her to accept. So I was kind of, not really surprised, because I know she's very close to my husband. And she actually, when we still in the funeral home, she was fine at first, but when we closed the casket, she was having not a seizure, but like she wanted to cry, but she cannot.
Yeah.
And then everybody panicked except me, because I don't even know, because all my relatives was telling me that it happens. She was having that episode, and I said, oh, okay. So but I'm glad that until now, when I talk about my husband, their father, they're okay. I mean, they still have memories about him. But I found for Illy it's a bit different from before. She remember, but not as much. Not as much as Ian. So when I asked her, like, do you remember this? I was like, no. But then when I asked Ian, and do you remember this? I said, yeah, I think so. So yeah.
I think it's very interesting and very unique how grief impacts different people. And even for me, I remember when my dad passed and when my mom passed, I always thought that I was closer to my dad, but the way it hit me when my mom passed, it was just, and I'm not sure if it was also like, of course it's a different set of circumstance, but it hit me very, very hard.
Because you live longer with her.
Yeah, I think so.
Because that's what happened to me with my mom, between my mom and my dad. When my mom passed away, I feel like, because she's been in and out hospital a lot, so at that time, like a few years, I feel that, oh, she's still here, but she's not at home, but she's in the hospital. So it's like the losing is not there yet. Yeah. But then when my dad passed away, I really, really, like you said, then it hit you like, oh, he's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so, like, this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because we know that, they're with the Lord, they're in a place where there's no more sickness, praise the Lord, no more pain, and they're home to be with the Lord, and we celebrate their life. So yes, we know all of those things, but at the same time, we are feeling all of the losses, like even not just the current loss, but the future loss. Like, when I, like, milestone, when I get married, my parents are not going to be there. Or, when I don't know, purchase my first house, like, I won't have my parents to be there to see it. I think it's also that. And how do you, even with your children or with your family, how do you balance they're home with the Lord, it is a wonderful thing, and I miss them, and they're not here right now, and there's a reason why this is here. So I kind of wanted to talk about that too. Like, how do we balance that?
Well, like just what Sophie mentioned, being longer together. So my husband and I, we look back for almost 40 years of partnership. So I guess I always said, like, he could read my mind. I mean, like, it was just knew everything about me, and vice versa. So I think I kind of try to remind myself, just like there is a season for everything, and that our Father is okay if we grieve, and sometimes it goes not so good. You just when you have those moments, just and in my, like, you see, all my children were actually adults. I mean, but see, my grandchildren also, in particular my oldest one, my husband was like her dad. So this loss, so it's like, I think that's, I almost want to say God is okay with us grieving and he grieves with us, and he just wants to love on us in those moments, and I think it's just okay.
I mean, the shortest verse in the Bible was Jesus wept.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the times people say that, and then they forget that Jesus was weeping for Lazarus because Lazarus died.
Yeah, and
as his friend.
That's also kind of like Mary and Martha, just like this like community. I think it's also having a community of friends is also one help.
Mm-hmm.
I think in those moments.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like having friends. Sometimes also you're alone, and it's good to be alone. But I guess talking to God.
Yeah. Oh,
all the time.
No,
It's just like,
I was
I was like, yeah, why? Because we plan to get to 120 years together. That was our plan.
okay, that's a
So
long
it's just
time.
like,
I don't know whether I want to live that long.
because it's like big family, right? Until we would reach that milestone.
Yeah.
And what Tirza says about milestones, just like,
Yeah.
and it happens over and over again, like for me, like the kids graduate,
Yeah.
from school, from uni,
That's yeah.
and all those things. So it's just like, or even for me, it's just like you see places and it's like, oh, how would you love to be here or see that, or just like holding hands. So it's just, I think that's something, what God allows. And
Yeah. So, what was the role of community for you as, like, you grieve? And because when we talk about grieving, I think a lot of the times people think, oh, the first year, the first 2 years, but it's been 10 years. It's been 9 years since my dad passed. It's been
6 years.
6 years. We keep on grieving. I think Pastor Mike mentioned this too last time, that we're grieving in one way or another. It might not look the same as when it was fresh, but it's part of life.
Yeah.
And so how, like, what role does community play for you or your kids, family?
I think for me, I thank God. I mean, I'm very grateful that I have a lot of close friends. There's friends from elementary school that I still, keep in touch and friends with, and middle school, high school, So I'm pretty much have, close to friends rather than to my family or relatives, which is, thanks God for that. And they, since they know me since I was young, since I was a kid, so they really know me. They know my characters, my personality, so they kind of also looking after my kids. Like I remember that when Ili have her sweet 17th birthday, we have this small gathering for her, and my friends bake a cake for her and then decorate. Basically, I just order food. I mean for the food, I just pay for the food, and of course for the dress, we found a dress for her. But my friends was like, don't worry, we decorate, because one of my friends have this small restaurant,
Okay.
like a coffee shop actually, in big area. So she said that you can use the place. And then after that, when we came, me and my kids arrived, and they already decorated. I was like, wow, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's nice, to have people, friends that because they know when I lost my husband, my kid is still young, and they kind of like looking after her, looking after them, both of my kids. And I think they also play a part with the emotional part also. Like at first, of course, they say that it's okay if you want to cry, or it's okay if you want to if you want to grieve or you want to just just let it out. And but after that you need to think about your kids. So they always remind me that you're not alone. You have your kids, and you have us. So whatever you need to just tell us, we can help you. As long as don't grieve for so long, like don't like not grieve, but don't neglect. Don't neglect your life or your kids. You need to come back up, because you have your kids to look after. So I think that's the community playing a part for me, is that.
Yeah, for sure. I think for sure having so many children, my kids, for sure there was just not an option, but very beautiful, because also as family processing the grief together, and then also the IES family, it's like being so long. I think it's just beautiful how people come around and I don't want to say distract, but kind of like just bringing also just that you don't get, like what you said, stuck in this grief hole, I always want to say, right?
Pool of emotions.
Pool of emotions. And I remember actually also like my mother-in-law who lost a son. I think that's,
I think it's even harder.
Beyond pain, and until now she's just pouring out to me, to our kids, and I think it's just, I really treasure that, and admire the strengths also. So communities for sure.
I've had people who, I think, even because sometimes when you're lost, and you might have gone through this, when you lose your parents as an adult, people think that, oh, you're an adult, you're okay, and we're like, we're not.
No,
not okay.
No, never.
But even
I mean, for me, because when I lost my mom, I'm still 23. I just graduated from university, from college, and that's, for me, actually that's the time when I need her the most, because you will go to the really an adulthood,
the real world,
and then you will go like looking for a partner things, and then I need some guidance, but I don't.
I'm turning 60 and I still want my mom to be there. So
true.
She's still there, so I know.
But I think it is good to have people who understood that. Why am I crying? And it's good to have people who come into your life and just tell you, hey, I'm here. Like, what do you need to do? What do you need? It's not about like, oh, cry, because sometimes I just don't want to cry, or just being able to talk about my parents, talk about my mom, because I think that's the other thing. A lot of people shy away from, like, when I mention, oh yeah, my mom used to do this, and then they're like, oh, like, and I'm like,
they're scared.
I'm like, no, I want to talk about my mom. And like, I remember both times when my dad passed away, and then my mom passed away. I remember Becky is my neighbor. She lives in Ben Hill too, but even when my mom passed, it was during COVID. She and Adia came over and just like, we can just pop by, like, whatever you need. I was like, sure. But I think the people who just gently, it's not like in a whirlwind of like, oh, here, let me do all of these things for you, but just people who think of you and just gently, sometimes silently be there, I think it's been good. And people who realize that, even as an adult, it's hard.
Also the continuation, I think sometimes, right, just like someone is gone and then everybody comes, and then comes this hole, and there's no people anymore, right? Or no one.
Well, for me, actually, I have an experience where, because when I lost my husband, I'm still kind of young.
You're still young. What are you talking about? You keep saying you're old.
I'm in the middle of this too. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's like it's nice if people just come and be there for you, and then we can just come and talk. Okay, we can talk whatever, but I have an experience where people come to me and oh, you're still young, you still can get married, and I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to get married. I mean, if God's willing, of course, but no. Why I need to get married again? Like, I have 2 kids already, and I have I have a husband before, but I have been through all of that, and then but I don't. For me, I don't like it when people come to me and say that.
Provide a solution to this.
It's just it.
And why still grieving? Actually, also,
very
fast.
Yeah, and then it's like, don't come to me and say that. I mean, you can say a lot of things like like entertain me or things. I mean, like like things like that, like
dance
or singing,
or watch certain concerts with you.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
Rather than just, oh, you're still young, why don't you just find another partner? Say, I'm sorry. No.
But I think what I thank you so much for being here with me and chatting with me about this. I know this. It's good to talk about, but it's also hard to talk about. But I think one of the things that I just want to share with people is just that we can have faith and know that we believe that God is in control, and that God calls them home, and it's a good thing, and there's again no pain, no sickness, praise the Lord. But then we deal with the grief, and we deal with not having them this side of eternity. I think there is space for both.
Blessed are those who mourn, right?
Yeah.
There's a season.
Absolutely. But thank you so much. I feel like I'm so usually here there's a coffee cup or something. Now there's
tissues
where we
need that the most.
More than coffee at this time, I guess.
But thank you so much for being here and for sharing your
Thank
stories. And yeah, I just love it. I love having both of you in my life as well. But thank you so much for sitting and chatting with us and letting us share a little bit of our stories.
Sad.
And so we want to encourage you, if you are going through some of grief and trying to deal with it or dealing with it, reach out. As a church family, we do want to be with you, and we do want to stand with you and just be with you, even if you want to talk about it or not talk about it, or just sit and eat, because it's one of our family values. So thank you so much for chatting with us, and we'll see you I think next week for Take a Beat. And I think next week is Christmas theme. It's not going to
not
be
a sad one. Don't.
Anyways, thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Not us, huh?